What if just $1,000 a month could completely change how your brain handles money? The first and most powerful idea in this script is that the initial $1,000 in monthly passive income is not about wealth, status, or lifestyle, but about crossing a psychological boundary that separates constant financial fear from mental stability. Before this threshold, money dominates your thinking in ways you may not even notice. Every decision is filtered through anxiety. You calculate grocery prices in your head, delay car repairs, avoid career risks, and accept bad deals because survival feels fragile. Even when you are earning enough on paper, your nervous system stays locked in threat mode because there is no margin for error. One unexpected bill can undo months of effort, and that constant pressure quietly erodes judgment, confidence, and long-term thinking. When a reliable $1,000 arrives every month without trading time for it, something fundamental shifts. The amount itself is modest, but its consistency changes how the brain processes risk. That income represents a guaranteed baseline, a signal to the mind that total collapse is no longer imminent. The fear doesn't vanish, but it quiets enough for rational thought to take control. You stop making decisions purely to avoid pain and start making decisions to improve outcomes. This is the moment where financial behavior changes at its root, not because of motivation or discipline, but because the internal stress response finally loosens its grip. This threshold works because it aligns closely with basic survival costs. It covers food, utilities, and minimal shelter in many areas, which tells the brain that even if everything goes wrong, you will still function. That assurance unlocks patience. You no longer rush into choices just to feel safe. You wait. You evaluate. You negotiate. You stop accepting low-value trades of your time and energy because desperation is no longer driving the wheel. The same person, with the same skills and intelligence, begins to behave like a completely different decision maker. This is why the move from 0 to $1,000 is more impactful than the move from $1,000 to $5,000. The first jump changes identity. You are no longer someone surviving paycheck to paycheck. You are someone with a buffer. That buffer creates psychological space, and psychological space is where strategy lives. Long-term thinking becomes possible. Risk becomes manageable, and opportunity becomes visible. This is the foundation of sustainable wealth, not because it makes you rich, but because it removes the invisible pressure that keeps most people stuck in financial loops they can't escape. The second core idea of the script is that the real power of the $1,000 monthly passive income milestone lies in how it changes behavior, not in how much it adds to your lifestyle. Most people believe wealth grows when income increases, but in reality, wealth grows when decision-making improves. Before reaching this threshold, financial choices are reactive. You optimize for immediate relief instead of long-term gain. You stay in jobs you dislike because stability feels safer than growth. You avoid negotiating pay or walking away from bad opportunities because the downside feels too dangerous. Scarcity quietly trains you to accept less than you are worth. Once a consistent $1,000 arrives each month, the emotional tone of your decisions shifts. You no longer feel cornered. That sense of optionality changes everything. You begin to approach career moves, investments, and business ideas from a position of strength rather than fear. Negotiation becomes easier because you are not dependent on a single outcome. You can say no without panicking. You can wait for better terms. You can take a calculated risk and absorb short-term losses because your basic needs are already covered by something stable and predictable. This shift explains why people with modest passive income often outperform those with higher active income over time. It is not confidence or intelligence that separates them, but emotional insulation. When fear is reduced, patience increases. When patience increases, decision quality improves. Better decisions compound just like money does. Small advantages stack on top of each other, creating a widening gap between those who operate from scarcity and those who operate from security. Over time, this gap looks like talent or luck from the outside, but it is really the result of consistently choosing long-term value over short-term comfort. This behavioral transformation also changes how risk is perceived. Risk stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a variable. Instead of asking, "What if this fails?" you begin asking, "What is the upside if this works?" You stop avoiding uncertainty and start managing it. That is a crucial distinction. People without a buffer fear volatility because it can ruin them. People with a buffer tolerate volatility because they can survive it. That tolerance allows them to stay invested, wait out downturns, and act when others are forced to retreat. The $1,000 milestone does not remove challenges, but it removes desperation. And desperation is the enemy of smart financial behavior. When that pressure lifts, even slightly, you gain the ability to think strategically. That ability, once unlocked, becomes the real engine of wealth creation, far more powerful than the income itself. The third core idea centers on why the jump from zero passive income to the first meaningful stream is psychologically harder than anything that comes after it, and why this makes the $1,000 milestone uniquely powerful. When someone has no passive income at all, their entire financial identity is tied to effort. Money only exists if they show up, perform, and trade time for it. This creates an invisible belief that income is fragile, temporary, and always one mistake away from disappearing. That belief shapes behavior long before any numbers change. Reaching the first consistent passive income stream breaks that belief. It proves that money can exist independently of your presence, even if the amount is small at first. The implication is massive. The mind starts to separate survival from labor. This is why the first dollars of passive income feel disproportionately exciting. They represent proof, not profit. They show that systems can replace effort. And once that idea becomes real, it cannot be unseen. The $1,000 level matters because it is where that proof becomes emotionally convincing. Small amounts still feel experimental. They are easy to dismiss as luck, timing, or temporary success. At $1,000 per month, consistency replaces novelty. The income shows up often enough and in a large enough amount that the brain accepts it as real and dependable. This is the point where belief solidifies, and belief drives action. When people truly believe something works, they stop dabbling and start committing. This belief shift is what shortens the path from $1,000 to $10,000 compared to the path from 0 to $1,000. The technical steps are not dramatically different, but the psychological resistance is. Doubt drains energy. Uncertainty creates hesitation. Before the first milestone, every action feels risky because the outcome is unproven. After it, effort feels leveraged. You are no longer guessing whether the system works, only how well it can scale. Another important aspect of this milestone is how it reframes effort itself. Time spent learning, testing, or building no longer feels like wasted energy if results are slow. There's already proof of return. This patience allows for deeper skill development and smarter iteration. Instead of quitting early, people refine. Instead of chasing shortcuts, they improve systems. This is why experienced builders often look calm and methodical. They are not in a rush because they know the process works. The $1,000 mark also changes how failure is interpreted. Mistakes no longer feel like confirmation that you are bad with money. They feel like data. Losses become feedback rather than personal judgments. That emotional neutrality is rare, and it is essential for scaling anything sustainably. The milestone does not make someone rich, but it upgrades how they think. And that upgrade is what makes everything that follows possible. The fourth key idea focuses on how lifestyle inflation silently destroys the power of early passive income and why resisting it is the most important decision made after reaching the first meaningful milestone. When passive income first appears, especially at a level like $1,000 per month, it creates a powerful emotional response. It feels like relief, validation, and success arriving all at once. After years of effort, scarcity, and delayed gratification, the brain naturally wants to convert that feeling into comfort. This is where the danger begins. Passive income feels different from earned income because it arrives without visible effort. That difference tricks the mind into labeling it as extra, optional, or safe to spend. instead of seeing it as part of a long-term system. Many people treat it like a reward. Small upgrades begin to feel justified. A slightly better apartment, more convenience, subscriptions, eating out more often. None of these choices feel irresponsible on their own. But together they lock the person into a new baseline where the passive income is already consumed before it has a chance to grow. Once this happens, the psychological benefits of the milestone disappear. The buffer that reduced anxiety is gone because expenses rise to meet the new income. The person is no longer operating from safety, but from dependence on that passive stream. Instead of freedom, they create another fragile structure that must be maintained. Any disruption now feels just as threatening as before, sometimes even more so, because the lifestyle is larger. What makes lifestyle inflation especially destructive at this stage is opportunity cost. Early passive income has the highest potential future value because it can be reinvested for the longest period of time. Every dollar spent today is not just a dollar gone. It is a future income stream that never had the chance to exist. This is why wealthy individuals treat early passive income with extreme caution. They understand that consumption feels good once, but compounding rewards discipline repeatedly. Resisting lifestyle inflation is not about deprivation. It is about identity. When someone chooses to reinvest rather than consume, they are reinforcing the identity of a builder instead of a spender. This identity shift is subtle but powerful. Decisions start aligning with long-term outcomes instead of short-term relief. The person stops asking what they can afford and starts asking what will multiply. There is also a deeper psychological effect. Holding lifestyle constant while income grows creates a widening gap between needs and resources. That gap is freedom. It absorbs stress, increases patience, and improves decision quality. People with this gap negotiate better, wait longer, and take smarter risks because they are not pressured by immediate comfort needs. The tragedy is that most people never experience this phase because they spend their way out of it too quickly. The milestone was never meant to upgrade lifestyle. It was meant to upgrade leverage. Those who understand this allow passive income to build upon itself, turning a small stream into a system that eventually replaces effort entirely. The fifth key idea centers on how crossing the first passive income threshold permanently alters decision-making, identity, and long-term trajectory, and why this psychological shift matters more than the income itself. Once a person proves to themselves that passive income is real and repeatable, something irreversible happens in the mind. The belief that money must always be traded for time begins to weaken. This single internal shift changes how opportunities are evaluated, how risks are perceived, and how the future is imagined. Before this point, most financial decisions are reactive. Choices are driven by urgency, fear, and the need to avoid immediate loss. The brain is focused on short time horizons because survival feels uncertain. Even intelligent people make poor decisions in this state, not because they lack knowledge, but because stress narrows thinking. After the first meaningful passive income milestone is reached and preserved, the mind exits survival mode. Decisions become proactive instead of defensive. Time horizons stretch. Patience increases. This new mental state creates a compounding advantage that has nothing to do with IQ, education, or luck. The same person with the same skills begins making higher quality decisions simply because pressure has been reduced. Opportunities that once felt too risky now feel manageable. Waiting no longer feels dangerous. Saying no becomes easier. The person stops chasing every option and starts selecting the best ones. This alone explains why people with financial buffers appear calmer, more strategic, and more confident, even when their incomes are not dramatically higher. Another powerful shift occurs in identity. The individual no longer sees themselves as someone trying to escape financial stress, but as someone building systems. This distinction matters. Builders think in terms of structure, scalability, and durability. They care less about quick wins and more about repeatability. Once this identity forms, behavior follows naturally. Actions align with long-term accumulation rather than short-term relief. This is also where momentum accelerates. After the first passive income stream exists, the second becomes easier. Not technically, but psychologically. Doubt is replaced with evidence. The question shifts from, is this possible? To, how can this be expanded? That change removes friction. Effort feels purposeful instead of hopeful. Each additional stream benefits from the confidence, skills, and perspective built during the first. The most important element of this stage is protection. The initial passive income stream is fragile not financially, but psychologically, if it is treated casually or consumed impulsively. The mental shift reverses. The person returns to dependency and short-term thinking. But when it is respected and allowed to grow, it becomes a stabilizing force that reshapes behavior permanently. In the end, the real power of the first passive income milestone is not what it buys, but what it unlocks. It unlocks clarity, patience, and strategic thinking. It transforms money from a source of stress into a tool. That transformation is what separates people who remain financially stuck from those who quietly build lasting wealth over time. If this changed how you see money, subscribe and watch my next video, because this is just the beginning.